Welcome, beautiful souls, to the Dear Souls podcast with your hosts, Jacqueline and Katana. Join us on a sacred journey of self-discovery, healing, and empowerment. As two soulful guides, we're here to create a safe space where vulnerability is embraced and growth is celebrated. Each week, we'll dive deep into the depths of our soul, exploring the wisdom within and sharing transformative insights to inspire your journey. From heart-centered conversations to guided meditations and interviews with inspiring guests, Dear Soul is your sanctuary for nourishing mind, body, and spirit. Together, let's uncover the magic that resides within and illuminate the path to living authentically and abundantly. Tune in, dear ones, as we embark on this beautiful voyage together. Katana, welcome to our first episode.
Yeah, thank you for
Do you
having
want
me.
it? You're welcome. Do you want to set the intention for this beautiful podcast?
Yeah, let's breathe into the center and bring that space into the center. And we're going to bring all parts of us together into one, because sometimes we're scattered in this time of life, and we want to just bring that in. And all directions of yourself coming together as one, even with your higher selves and your lower earth self. And sometimes our lower earth self is still out there, running around like the chicken with its head cut off. But we're going to bring it in and just let it know that it's in safety, peace, abundance of knowledge, and spiritual abundance. We bring it forth and we take a nice deep breath in.
Let's begin. All righty. So our first episode, we had discussed that we wanted it to be about our inner voice. So on that, what does your inner voice mean to you, Katana?
Guidance, knowledge, understanding. This is so much information that we bring from the higher self. And some people struggle with that, knowing who's talking to them. But it can be so beautiful because it can bring so much knowledge, and it helps with release and understanding who you truly are.
Yeah, yeah. I sometimes look at my inner voice now, and I'm looking at it. Before it used to be kind of like the little demon and the little, God, angel, whatnot. And now it's kind of like, no, this is my inner voice. This is me. This is, I get to create what I want by just visualizing something, or a thought comes in my head. And, if it's a beautiful thought, then I, embrace it. And I just kind of like see what it's trying to tell me, and then I go with that. If it's not such a nice, voice, because sometimes we get those, underworld voices that are trying to mess with you and trying to tell you that you're not good enough, or that something's wrong with you, or nobody wants to really listen to you. Then, I know now what I could do to kind of say, hey, I see you, spirit, I'm sorry, but you're not going to tell me that I'm not worthy, because I am worthy. I am just like our God, like universe, God, source. We were created from him, or it, not even a him, but from it. And, it's kind of like, oh my God, like, no, 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 no. I am going to live. I'm going to help this soul from the underworld that is trying to tell me that I'm not good enough, let's say, and then, help it get to the light, because that's all it needs, and these are like little shamanic things that I'm learning. It's just an easier way to kind of like know that you're the bad thoughts are not just there and they're going to be there and they're going to hunt you forever. No, there's things that you can do to let that inner voice that is from the underworld, that is negative thoughts or negative voices coming in, that no, you could actually help that, and you could change it instantly. You could change the energy, the vibration, the thought could go from darkness to light, positive to negative, or I mean negative to positive. I mean, whichever way, but to me that's how I kind of see my inner voice now, aside from everything else that you said there.
Yes, it's true. It's very true that you can take that and move it and change it because you have the power. You hold that power within. And that's where a lot of people get struggling because they was raised being taught that they did not have the power, right? That they don't have the self-worth.
Yeah.
And that's that inner voice now is coming forth because it's your higher self. And you don't have just one higher self, you have multiple layers of the higher self.
Mhm.
And being in that conscious in between, and that soul star holds all of those memories. And some of those sometimes leak out of the space
Yeah.
and come down and kind of resonate on us. And I've been there. I've talked down to myself, like 8 years ago. I remember going to a house, working at a house, and telling myself, "You're late. You're not worthy of getting paid. You should give them this set, this for free,
Yeah.
and you should apologize for being that." And I was like, "Wait a minute, I'm not doing this." And what I seen in that moment was profound for me because I looked at it as I'm working, right? But I looked at it, I said, what are these words attached to?
Mm.
They was attached to a whip,
Okay.
and that whip had razors on it. So every time I would speak something bad to myself, I'd whip myself. So I would feel even more unworthy. I
Mm-hmm.
would feel like I had to give my services away. And I was like, no, this is not going to happen anymore. I've been doing this for a very long time. And I've been on my soul journey for a very long time. And it's an everyday process.
It is. It is. For those audience out there that are listening to us, when you said the word whipping myself, can you clarify that it's not like actually whipping yourself? It's a metaphor, all right?
It's
Or
a metaphor. Yeah,
okay.
it's a metaphor of taking those words and making it into a whip that you're spiritually downing yourself.
Hmm.
And that, when I seen that whip and me taking my hand behind my back and actually hitting myself with those words. Because what are words? They're spells,
Yeah.
and they're very powerful spells.
Yeah.
So understanding those spells that we're speaking on ourselves, that assists the inner voice, the
Mhm.
inner child to understand more, right?
Right.
To bring that knowledge forth.
Hmm. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's so fascinating to me how, I'm in my 40s now, and I've always known things since I was very young, but society and the unfortunately the matrix that has been created for us to be limited and blinded to what our powers are really, now I look back and I'm like, oh my God, like everything that I am researching and studying and learning, I'm like, shoot, I knew this stuff, you know what I mean? And it's just fascinating that our human self is not different from our spiritual self. It's intertwined, and to me it's just it's it's freedom because I could see the light now. I could see the truth, and again, we all have our own truth to things, but then there's a universal truth. And that's
Yes.
the truth that I've been searching for all this time. And the last few months, it's been very, very freaking cool for me because I've been able to really tap into some extraordinary information, and it just resonates with me 100%. And that's why we're doing this podcast, right? Because we want to share with the world that, just because you have a limited belief or that voice telling you you're not good enough or you're shit or whatnot, that is not true. That is not
It
true.
is not true. It
It's not,
is
we
not
are
true at all.
worthy. We're creators. We're made, like God, universe, source is like we are gods. You know what I mean? Because we come from that source energy. So we have that creative power. We have that ability to do anything we want, to manifest anything you want. You know what I mean? And just having that awareness, that consciousness, it just it's life changing, completely life changing. I mean, to the point where I decided to write a book. And, it's an amazing book. I'm going to put it here. It's called The Power Within and the Law of Manifestation. And when I was writing this book, it was actually last year at the end of the year. And it started for me because I wanted to manifest, some stuff in my life. And I wanted to learn how to do it, intentionally, not subconsciously, like we do, sometimes, but I wanted to with intention, be able to manifest things. And one of the first things that I was able to manifest was selling my RV to be able to have funds to do other things that we needed to do, and from there, I manifested, the new tenants that I have in my property, and they're amazing and they're awesome. And, it's just the power we have as creators, as human beings, it's freaking awesome, man.
It is. It really is. And walking through with you on your journey this last year has been to watch you grow and come forth is amazing. And you came so far in a short period of time. And it's beautiful. Like it's totally
It
beautiful.
is.
It's opening up that rose, that rose opening up and then peeling away those layers that you didn't need anymore. And that's what the inner voice of understanding the inner voice and journeying into understanding the self, right? Because it
Mm-hmm.
comes the self. It's peeling back those parts that you don't need anymore.
Mm.
And as doing past life readings as I do, that's pulling that back and finding those layers of
Yeah,
those people that they didn't need that, but they didn't know how to get there, right?
yeah.
A lot of times we're stuck on not knowing.
Yeah, that is true. And that brings us into, what role does intuition play in our inner voice?
Exactly. Like where like on some people it's a huge role
Mm-hmm.
and it's a great, beautiful journey. And then on others, it's like it's the inner voice, it's the lower, as you said, the lower
Mm-hmm.
energy inner voice talking to us in the wrong way.
Yeah,
And then we, as beings, think that we should allow that to happen because we're used to that happening
yeah,
and finding that knowledge that I don't have to talk to myself
yeah,
that away.
yeah,
And that's when you start getting your power.
yeah. And that's when you start tapping into your intuition and listening to that gut feeling, listening to like, hey, am I supposed to do this or am I supposed to do that? Asking the questions. And you know what? It's so crazy because we have an amazing resource that is our guides, our ancestors, our spirit guides, our totem animals. I mean, we have that we could tap into them and ask them, hey, am I supposed to do X, Y, and Z? Is this a good path for me? Am I on the right path or whatnot? And we have that. And a lot of us human beings in this world, we don't know we could tap into, our archangels or, guides or whatnot. I mean, it's not difficult at all, and they will guide you because that's one of the things that I've been getting confirmations in. Like I had a healing session yet the day before yesterday. And in that healing session, I was guided through a QHHT session where my uncle came in. My uncle passed away in 2006, and he came through and he told me, he was like, you know what? I am proud of you. You're doing amazing. You're finally listening. You're allowing yourself to be guided. And you know what? Just don't stop. Keep going. Keep going. Because, you have you have a lot of information. You have things that you've gone through, things that you've learned, things that you could show other people and teach them and guide them, you know. So don't stop. We're here, you know. We're here backing you up. Whatever you need, just tap in, and we'll let you know if, you know, yay or nay, if you're supposed to go that way or not that way. You know what I mean? So it's not that difficult. It's really not, you know, and it's such a great resource to have.
It is, and sometimes we make it hard because sometimes it's connected to those past lives that we have had that resonate. It's like a thin thread that comes through, and it goes back to another life when you was tortured, or something really bad, death, anything
Mm-hmm.
can affect this life.
Yeah.
So that affects your intuition and your inner voice,
Yeah.
because that changes that whole vibration, and opening those doors to understanding it is you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you from another space and time trying to get your attention and say, hey, please fix this.
Yeah.
And like you said, the guides, we're never alone. So
Yeah.
many people feel like they're alone. I've had many people tell me, Katana, I'm alone.
No, we're
We're
not.
never alone. We're never alone.
We're never alone. And you know what? I'm one of those people, or was one of those people, that I used to always tell myself, I'm alone. I don't have anybody. My elders have already left this world, you know, including, you know, my uncle, and, you know, and my husband and I live in the mountains of North Georgia, and it gets a little lonely sometimes because it's just him and I. Everybody else is scattered, you know, either in Florida or different states or whatnot. But now where I'm at, it's like, oh, wait a second, I'm not alone. You know, all I have to do is just tap into my ancestors or guides or whatever, and it's just, even if you need just a little bit of love, you know, just to kind of get you through the day because you're going through something, you just ask for love, and man, you feel that energy coming through. Like you'll feel it, you know, and it's just so beautiful.
Yeah, it's there. That's the whole thing. A lot of people do not ask, right? They don't ask
Well, they don't
for that
know.
assistant.
Yeah, they don't
Well,
know.
yeah, because they feel alone. So
Yeah,
in that aloneness that you're feeling, you
yeah,
stay in that aloneness, right? You
yeah.
stay in that space
And
of,
that's where mental health comes in. That's where you get depressed, you have anxiety, you start creating panic attacks, you know, you start creating a reality that's not real. You know what I mean? And
yes,
a lot of people get sick. I mean, we have a huge population of people that are struggling with mental health. You know, just because and the way that I see mental health is just basically your spirit is not aligned to your human self. You know,
it's very true.
yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, once your spirit aligns to your human self and you understand this whole concept of spirituality, what it really means, and how easy it is to access all of it, there's no need for mental health. There's no need for depression. I mean, I suffered through a severe depression not long ago, you know, after my grandmother passed away. And I look back now and I'm like, holy shit, I was creating my own suffering. You know, the words that I was telling myself, the inner voice, you know, I was creating that suffering, and it was making me sick. I mean, you met me what, last April? And,
Hmm.
you know, thank God that we met through LifeWave, you know, and through those beautiful stem cell activation patches that really activated my body again, and brought some light and amazing vitality, you know, for both my body and my mind. So, you know, having struggled with all that, now I know that shit, no, we create our reality. We don't need to suffer. We don't. You know what? There are so many resources and so many things in the holistic realm. You know, you don't need to go to medication. I'm not trying to put out there that, you know, the medical industry or anything like that, but there's natural remedies. There's natural stuff that you can do. You know, you could go and get a healing session, a sound healing session. You could go get some Reiki done. I mean, anything, there's so much stuff that has been around since thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of years that we're bringing back into existence now. And I just love it because we need it. we need it. You know, the human race is it's getting sick and sick every day just because of everything that has been created for us in this lifetime. You know what I mean? Like, it's not cool.
It's not cool. And the Egyptians, they had did light therapy in the, in the temples, they had light coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Now the old churches, they did light therapy, the glass
Mm-hmm.
windows, all of that was light therapy to come in. Now, in some churches, they're removing them.
Yeah.
Right? Which is sad because that's when the sun shines in through those colors, because the color spectrum is a powerful spectrum,
Oh yeah.
very powerful. And it brings in that healing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun to work with people because finding new avenues or new ways how their inner voice talks to them,
Mm-hmm.
and hearing that inner child, because that inner child can talk to you too.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. But and what are what are the what are some of the things like what do you think about journaling? You think journaling is one of those things that could really help with, self-discovery, with, how to really tap into, what is going on inside of you, inside your mind, inside your body? What do you think about journaling?
Journaling is an amazing, like, because the pen is mightier than the sword.
Mm,
So if you're journaling, you're releasing those emotions, you're releasing those thoughts, you're making it more powerful. And as you're writing, the universe listens to us. It's
mm-hmm,
all constantly listening. So as you're writing it actually in your Akashic records. And
mm,
that is very powerful,
yeah.
of that manifestation of releasing is that writing. And don't worry about how it looks, if the grammar's right, if the spelling's right, it doesn't matter. I used
Doesn't
to
matter.
think about that when I was writing, but my guides would state, look, it doesn't matter. You're putting it on pen to paper.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives it power. You have a lot of manifestation power at that point in time. And understanding journaling can be released. I used to buy journaling books to give to people.
Mm,
And when they showed up, I had one for like 5 years. And I'm
mm,
like, okay, what am I going to do with this? And one day, this lady, showed up in my life, and it was exactly what she liked, the type of flower she liked, and it was in the book. And I was talking to her, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'll be right back. I ran
mm.
to my house, brought this journal back, and she started journaling her dreams,
That's beautiful.
and they started changing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's funny because when you journal, and I've had like a really hard time with journaling throughout my life because I went through when I was younger, I was in you could say elementary school. I used to journal. I used to write in my little journal that I had, and I guess my father found my journal one day, and old school mentality, Cuban culture, everything is very like machista, and it was like you're not gonna have this book anymore. Like, he took it away from me because I guess whatever I wrote in there wasn't to his liking. So from there, I didn't realize until I think it was last year that I was talking to my husband and I was like, oh my God, now I understand why I have such a hard time journaling. And it's because of what my dad did when I was younger that kind of stopped me from doing that. So I wouldn't put my thoughts on paper. So like that, he couldn't, hear what or read what I was thinking. You know what I mean? So it
Mhm.
did mess me up in that. And now I started picking it up again little by little, and I'm realizing that when I journal, it helps me, kind of like put all my thoughts together, quiet my mind a little bit more. It helps me also like listen to my inner gut more. Like if I got something going on, I'll just sit there and kind of meditate on it. and then I'll hear like an answer like to whatever questions I have, and I'll just write it down. So it's a good way to even like if you have any kind of thoughts, it doesn't matter, good, bad, whatever, just write it down. You're wanting to do something, write it down. It's really not that difficult, and that's why I'm little by little getting into that whole journaling thing because I know how powerful it is, you know?
Yes, it is very powerful,
Yeah,
very. And
yeah.
it releases those emotions. And even people that have had lots of trauma, sexual abuse, it doesn't matter what it is, write it
Write it
out.
down.
And like today, dealing with somebody that nobody believes what she's saying, and I was like, I understand that, I get it. But one day in your life, those people are going to come back to you and go, hey, how did you do that?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we can't take that journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the journey. And we cannot teach somebody else unless we take that journey ourselves.
Exactly. And they have to be open to receiving, or the message or whatever it is that we're trying to, put out there. Because not everybody's open, and when it's their time to be open, then the message will definitely resonate with them, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. At that point in time, they're more receptive of that
Exactly.
and understanding, like, wow, man, why didn't I listen to you like a long time ago?
Exactly.
Well, because it wasn't your time. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I don't chase after my clients. I Even when people come to me and like, I need you now, and I'm like, okay, let's book a session. Well, not today.
Mm.
I'm like, okay, that means you're not ready. And a lot of people are like, I want this person now to do this. And I'm like, no, you can't do that.
It doesn't
Because
work.
what happens is they get shoved away and they run. And they're not actually running from you,
Mm-hmm.
running from themselves.
Yes. Yes. Don't we know that, huh? We ran from ourselves.
Oh, I'm just, when my youngest son was 4, I was like, this is it, I'm done. I've had enough. I went to the bus stop and I was sitting there and I'm like, I'm leaving. And they're like, where are you going? I'm like, I don't know, but I'm out of here, dude. And they're like, well, if you come off try to go off a planet, we'll bring you back. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I know, I just need a vacation. I need a way.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're really going to leave your youngest son at the house? I'm like, he'll be fine. He's self-sufficient. He'll be fine. I just need I need out of here.
You just needed a break.
Yeah, I know. So I'm sitting at the bus stop thinking, when is this bus going to show up? Because normally it would show up every like 15, 20 minutes. I was there 2 hours, bus didn't show up
Mm.
because it didn't give me the option to run away. And that's, after a while sitting there and I'm like, okay, pull up your panties, let's go back and let's do this.
Yeah,
Because life can be really hard,
it can be.
but it's only as hard as we make it. If we
Mm-hmm.
make it really hard, then it's going to be the most difficult time.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are like, hey, how do you do that? And I'm like, well, it's one step at a time.
Yeah, that is true. It's funny. I actually came across this video. That guy's pretty cool, little intense, but good messages. And he was talking about that we should see where we're at as a simulation. We're in a simulation. Why are we gonna get upset at something when we're in a freaking simulation? Like none of this is, like, yeah, we're creating a reality, but at the end of the day, does it freaking really matter? Does it
No,
matter to get upset because you didn't call me? Let's say you didn't call me when you said you were gonna call me. No, we have things to do. We get busy. Things happen. You probably could have broken down with the car somewhere, or a family emergency, and the last thing on your mind was, oh, let me call, Katana to tell her that we have to cancel our podcast. Let's say. shit, we don't need to get mad at things, and it's funny because we come across, people that get upset for the most littlest things. And then I started learning that, the wherever the moon is, the face of the moon, where the planets are, it affects us. And that just happened this week, where I'm hearing stories from different friend of mine saying, hey, this person's getting mad at me, this other one's getting mad at me, and I'm like, what? And I'm like, why?
It, oh, I could feel it.
Yeah, I felt it.
Because
And I went through my own stuff on Sunday, and I'm like, why am I getting mad at my husband? For what reason? Like, what the heck is wrong with me?
yeah, mine was me and Chris because we're both Pisces, so we're in that Pisces
Yep.
water.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we're in that like that moon energy, right? That
Right.
bringing that resonating that water up because water is memory cells.
Mm-hmm.
And we're bringing those memory cells up and everybody's like flooding and
Yeah.
like, oh my God. But then we're going to go what? Into what we talked about yesterday, the
Was it fire?
Aries. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Aries fire. We're coming out of the Pisces into the fire and it's going to burn it all the way. So all of that, those emotions that we're feeling at this moment will come out.
Oh,
And
yeah.
me
And
being
you know what?
Pisces,
That is the perfect time to journal.
it is the
Journal those
perfect,
emotions. Just journal
yeah.
everything that you're feeling, everything you're going through, every thought. Like, just freaking journal that.
Now, see, when I journal, I can't look back at my stuff.
Really?
Yeah, I can't. I can't look back at it. I can't come close to it, like because I've done moved on,
Mm.
and that has a whole different frequency level.
Yeah. So your
And
journaling, it's a little different because you write it and you just let it be. It's like I'm putting it on paper and let it go. That's a
mhm.
good therapy. That's a good way to have some mental therapy, right?
It is. It's a really good way. And the other way is to journal it out and then burn it,
Yeah.
in a safe space or in, like some people I have worked with, like they've journaled it out in the session and then we have them light it on fire at the kitchen sink so that's safe and you got your water there and you bring it and you burn it because I have watched it happen, okay? I've watched it when I burn a letter that I've written for intention, and I see the words going up in smoke
Really.
and going out to the universe.
That's
It's
pretty
very
cool.
amazing because those words do go up and we release them. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're into that true release of those words, then what you wrote back then, you don't need to look at it
That's true.
because it's your past.
Mm-hmm.
And as being able to look forward, you're not looking over your shoulder because looking over your shoulder, you're looking into the past. And yes, sometimes we have to look into the past,
Yeah.
but constantly doing over the shoulder
That's not good.
is not healthy.
It's not healthy. And that's one of the things that, as I'm, um, you know, doing little different research and adding things into my life and learning and practicing, I take a lot of stuff from Shaman Durek, and I just love him. He's amazing. And he talks about it. He's like, pretty much, this is not verbatim, but my understanding of what he says is like your inner child is your, I mean, not your inner child, sorry, your inner child, right? Um,
Yeah, it's
it's
part of,
basically
yeah.
just leave it alone. It's in the past. Don't bring that back to the, don't bring that in now, because what you're doing is whatever happened in your past as a child, you know what I mean? You're bringing it forward to the present time. And then you're reliving that energy and all that stuff again. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You're reliving all that again. And that's not cool. You know what I mean? Because then we're gonna stay in that little cycle of, I'm a victim. I went through this. My parents did this. These people did this to me. And no, we you know what? It's good to like acknowledge it, and okay, that's
I
fine.
have,
So yeah, so basically, we talked about what the journaling, and now we're going to get into the space of, and I want to ask you this and hear your perspective on this. What are some important decisions that we can make in our lives when it comes to how we use our inner voice?
better thought process, bringing happiness and joy in, looking at the sky and instead of down. Do you know when you look down?
Mm,
Yeah, sometimes we have to look down where we're walking, but
yeah.
when we look down constantly, we're looking down on ourselves.
Mm. And it's funny you say that and you bring that up now, because I know that for me, when I look down, most of the time that I would look down, that would be my depressive state. And when I would look up, that was my happy state. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And we're not talking about when you're walking. Of course, you have to look down. You don't want to trip over something. It's just, in those
You
moments
can
that,
look forward
yeah,
and be able to have ask for full spectrum,
exactly.
in front of you to know what you're looking at on the way. You can do that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, have that because it's all up here.
It
It's
is.
all in the mind. The
It's
mind
our
is,
self-talk, it's so important how we speak to ourselves. You know what I mean? Very,
mhm.
very important. And a lot of us make the mistake every single day to talk back to ourselves. I will bring in, my mom, for instance. I spoke with her yesterday, and she was like, I work to keep saying about we're gonna lose our job, and things are getting really bad. And I said, okay, let me stop you right there. I said, I love you very much. I said, but we've had these conversations before, that what you put out, it's what's going to come back in. It's the law of attraction. It's energy. Words are spells. The thoughts that we think, that's what we're going to be bringing in. So I said, Mom, you need to stop feeding into what other people are saying. This is my advice to you. At the end of the day, we all do what we want to do. But I
Mhm.
said, you got to start speaking to yourself better. You got to start speaking better words. And if you don't want to lose your job, then you need to stop saying you're going to lose your job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you'll bring it to the head because the pen isn't just the pencil. It's not just the pen. It's your mouth. It's
Yeah.
your thoughts. And it's what you see that you're envisioning. Okay, so if you are envisioning this, what's going to happen?
You're going to bring it
You're
forth.
you're going to bring it forth because you're the creator. As
Exactly.
it states, the true source is the creator in the heavens, right?
Right.
And man is creator on earth. We
Mm-hmm.
created this.
Yeah. So we're basically like, I see it as, this is God's source and this amazing, beautiful energy. And then we are the little specks that have come out and has come into this earth. And we're here to create, right? And create whatever we
Mhm.
want. And then that information gets sent back to energy source, God, love, universe, whatever you want to call it. But that's why we're here. We're here to create. We're here to experience life. We're here to just have fun. And we're not doing that. A lot of us are just so freaking miserable and unhappy and lost. I know I was lost for a very long time. And I was like, man, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. I don't know my purpose. And you know what? I stopped that. And now with the different things that I'm learning and doing and practicing and putting into my life every day, I'm like, forget that, man. I don't want to be that person anymore. I don't want to not be a creator of beautiful things. I mean, of I don't want to be a creator of negative things. I want to be a creator of positive, beautiful, loving, joyful things. I've already had enough of
Yes.
the darkness. I know what that looks like, both here on earth and in the spiritual realm, because I've seen them. I know what things are, and I know what they're capable of. But now I choose joy. I choose the light. I choose happiness. I'm not saying
It,
that it's all the time, because bullshit. We live in beings, we live in an earth that's polarity. We gotta have the yin and the yang, the good and the bad, the light and the darkness to be able to, you know, be what we are. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
But we have a choice. And the moment that you realize that you have a choice and you are a creator, then freaking choose to create an amazing, abundant, beautiful freaking life. Stop with the victim mentality. Stop with the bullshit. I know we all go through stuff. I'm not taking that away from anybody, but go through the trauma, go through whatever it is, let it go.
It's
Send it out
very
to
true.
the light, let it go. Because if not, it will consume you. It will consume your mind, your body, and your spirit. It will consume everything.
It can actually make you want to take your life.
Oh, I've been there.
And the thing is that the work I do, I work with those people that are in that state that don't know how to get to the point of release, and they need that assistance. So knowing that, of been here 38 years helping, I came here to Earth to assist those peoples to find their true light body, because what are we made of? Light.
We're made out of light, yeah.
And the chaos, depression, fear, those are energies too, but they need a vessel to live in. They have to have a vessel to live in. Without you, they can't survive. That's the reason why they grasp on to you, and all these other energies and entities that are from different places that can't live in the body, the vessel. They try to hold on to you, so then that way you feel like it's actually you.
Exactly.
And understanding this, so when I take a little walk back to the inner voice, is that when I was in Denver, Colorado, trying to find who I was compared to who everybody else's was, because I could hear everybody's inner voice. And going back to that, of finding how can you intervene that inner voice to actually just you have to take that soul search and ask those questions. I raised my kids of always asking questions.
Yeah.
My youngest son, his teacher's like, Brandon, you always ask questions. And he goes, that's what my mom taught me, because out of questions you get answers,
But we're
right?
not supposed to ask questions. We're supposed to just do what they say, follow what the matrix says, right?
Oh, hell no, I'm a
Them
rebel.
are freaking light, them are fucking gift. And then, we don't then, as we grow up and we become a young adults and then, older adults, we don't know who the fuck we are. We don't
Exactly.
know. We're lost. We're like, what the hell? We knew when we were a kid, for the most part, but as we're growing up, because, I believe culture and the way your upbringing and, your environment, all that has a lot to do with shaping who you are as you're growing up. And then it's our jobs when we become adults and we become conscious to undo all that bullshit and then bring in new information that is good for you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yes, it is empowering. You brought me back to one of my elderly clients in Denver that she was so angry because she felt like God didn't talk to her.
Yeah.
And she's like, he never speaks to me. And I'm like, he's always speaking to you. Like he's always speaking to you. Because the thing is, you ask, it'll come. All right.
Yeah.
Female, male, however you want to look at it, it's the divine love, right?
Yeah.
So I was helping her with a cabinet and removing stuff, and she goes, he never talks to me. I'm always alone, never get my answers. And I pull out this book saying, Hearing God. And I was like, oh, Mary, what's this book? Oh, it's, my niece gave it to me.
Mm.
Well, I pulled out another book, same book.
Wow.
And I'm like, Mary, you're saying that the divine never talks to you, but you have two of the same book. What was the kicker? That I pulled out the third book.
No. It's like universe got swords and say, hello. I'm
I was
trying
like,
to give you a message. I am listening, but you're the one not listening.
you locked me away in the cabinet.
What the heck? I sent you 3 books and you still not listening.
you, you threw me in the cabinet and shut the door.
Oh my
I said,
goodness.
Mary, have you ever read these? And she goes, no. And I'm like, well, your answers are right here. Somebody gave you a book of, you know, knowledge of being able to listen to that true source that
Mm-hmm.
you've been screaming at, going, why don't you talk to me? Well,
Hello, I am talking to you. And it's funny you say that about the book because I've done that. I've done that with, certain people that I've sent them a book, because I hear the message and then they're like, okay, send this book. And then they don't even open it, they don't read it. They're like, no, leave me alone. I don't I did that. I don't want that kind of information right now because I'm already, doing something else and I don't want to kind of like, put too much in my head. And I'm like, okay, you know, and then I go and send another book that they tell me. So I'll send stuff or I'll send like a message or I'll send a YouTube video. You know what I mean? Every once in a while, if I get that, message from my guides or something saying, hey, this person needs to listen to this. Well, guess what? I'm doing my job. It's up to them if they want to receive the message or not. And that has been my most challenging journey because I want to help people because I know what I've gone through and I know how much people are suffering. And I'm like, hello, like I've done all this stuff and it works. It really, really works. And like, hello, you have like, please listen. And they're like, nope, nope, nope. So I've learned back away. It's their journey. Let them do what they need to do. There's obviously a lesson they have to learn from whatever they're going to experience.
I call that learning the hard way.
Learning
And
the
the
hard way.
other thing is, you can tell somebody, hey, that road over there has bumps, it has really big holes. Don't drive down that road. You'll get stuck. You'll probably blow a tire, right?
They don't
And they're
listen.
like, oh my God, that's the best one ever. And I had talked to one of the guys that I thought he was more standoffish, but really he listens to everybody and he always sits in the back of the room.
Mm-hmm.
And I really got to, get to know him just a couple weeks ago.
Right.
And he's really intelligent in the spiritual realm.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why don't you speak up? And he goes, because I'm not qualified enough. I'm like, what? You got some knowledge, man.
You
Like,
don't
seriously,
what
you have
qualification? Who's giving you
knowledge.
that qualification? I mean, you're limiting yourself.
Well, because, in the world of, you can't be a psychic unless you have, certification, or you can't be a herbalist because you don't have certification. Well,
Yeah.
actually, there is no actual certification. There's somebody that decided they could figure out how to make a couple thousands of dollars off of a person that wants to learn how to be a herbalist.
And that's
You
okay.
know,
And that's okay because you know what? Money needs to flow. Money's energy. And you know what?
yes, it is.
It's fine. That's all good. But at the end of the day, like, you don't need a certification to teach what you know. We all have our own knowledge. We all have our own perspectives. And, we all have our own journey and experiences from that. So it's, people will resonate with who they resonate with. So like for
Exactly.
us, we're here doing this podcast now. This is our first podcast. So, we're going to have people that are going to be like, oh, what a shitty podcast, let's say, right? And some other people are going to be like, oh my God, they're so freaking authentic and real. And that's the whole point. I told you from the beginning, like, I want us to have our podcast. I want us to talk about things, and I want us to be real and authentic. You know what I mean? And I don't care what anybody, would say. To me, it's like, whatever. This is for us. This is for us to put our messages out, for us to help other people, and whoever resonates, right? And who doesn't.
That's exactly,
Mhm.
because you're gonna find ones that really needed the
Mhm.
message that you give. And then
Exactly.
the other ones are like, but
Whatever. Yeah.
it's okay. They can, because you know what? Sooner or later, they might come back and go, and somebody else tells them
Mhm.
about us, right?
Oh yeah.
And they'll be like, oh my God, those ladies are really knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Wow. Why didn't I get that before? Because you wasn't ready.
Yeah. It happens. It happens.
Not ready for that point.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I believe that, I believe it. And that brings us into, self-doubt and listening to your inner voice with that. What are some of the ways that we could overcome those fears? Because I know that for us to be on the podcast, and I know you've been on your podcast with Patty, doing different things with LifeWave or whatnot, or healings with Rich, but that overcoming that fear of, does somebody want to listen to us? Does somebody want to listen to the message? Are we good enough to be put on a podcast or create our own podcast to talk about whatever we want to talk about? And that overcoming those fears of doubt, of self-doubt, is very, very critical. So I know that one of the steps is like, like you acknowledge yourself and accept yourself, and accept your journey and accept the things that you have, gone through as experiences, as lessons, and and go from there. Don't keep putting yourself down. Another good practice is self-compassion. You know what I mean? Or
Yes.
self-compassion, especially for us women, and I'm not taking it away from men, please, but for us women, our voices have been shut down for so long, and for us to be able to learn to have some self-compassion is very important. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, it is very important. And the words kept saying inner child. Your sacral chakra is your feeling chakra, right? So your stomach is your sacral chakra, your inner child.
Mm-hmm.
And if your inner child is at odds with yourself, then you're going to have stomach issues, you're going to have problems, digestive problems, health issues, all kinds, because it's unbalanced.
Yeah.
You have to balance that inner self
Mm-hmm.
to bring forth that understanding of being free
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
from, from all of it,
Yep.
and being connected to the knowledge of how your body feels to the your emotions, because
Mm.
your emotions is like a big river.
Yeah.
And we go
Especially
back.
for us girls, when we're, during that beautiful monthly goddess thing that comes through and has us like, oh, crazy sometimes, and we don't know how to really, practice like mindfulness, some meditation, anything that could help soothe us, like a nice warm bath. These are little things that I'm learning to do as a woman, because I wasn't taught, that as a female, as a feminine, energy, there are things that we have to do to take care of ourselves, because once we get to a certain age, we could get affected not only mentally but even physically, you know so for me
Mhm.
now, is having gone through all the things that I went through. It's like, okay, now I need to really take care of my body, take care of my mind. I got to eat healthier. I have to have time for myself. I need to, if I need to go and take a nice little bath, like I created a whole 2 weeks of this self-love thing for myself. Do one thing a day minimum for self-love. meaning whatever. You want to take a nice hot bath with bubbles, do that. You want to go get a massage, do that. You want to go into the booty yoga that I did the other day. That thing was so amazing. Go do that. Take care of yourself. Have time for you. And I'm learning all that now because I used to be so codependent. And it's funny because codependency, and that's going to be another episode. But that came up to me this past few weeks, and I was just like, oh shit, I have been so codependent of my family, of everything, and I need to shut that down. So that's where I'm using a lot of, mindfulness to make sure that I am healing, that I am doing okay every day. And when I'm off, I need to catch it. It's like, how else are you going to learn something if it doesn't pop up and you practice? You know what I mean? So things pop up not because of no crazy reason. They pop up for a good reason because there's still a lesson. There's still something there that you need to learn. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, you're right. They're very, very right. Of knowing when to catch it
Mm-hmm.
and change it and transform it. Okay. It's like the techniques I teach is stop, delete it, return it to sender, but return it to sender with love.
Yes.
Because if it's coming from you and you return it to sender, it doesn't feel good. But if you throw some love in there with it on top of it, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. And then you set in love because you're not just setting in that thought or that connection of that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You're deleting those words that
Yeah.
you speak to yourself, those thoughts, and you're deleting them and then you bring it back out and smoothing it back out. Because the one thing we don't give ourselves enough of
It's
is
credit
love
and love.
and credit.
Yeah.
Credit's like, like pop, right? And love's right there, right next to it. So find that space to be able to love the self.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
And you know what? Coming from, you know, going through a lot of mental health challenges throughout my entire life, I do tell people, seek help if you need it, and don't stop. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on life. I know what it means to want to say, I don't want to be in this earth anymore. This shit sucks, but I also now could see the other side, which is amazing, beautiful. Like I love waking up in the mornings, having my coffee, going out to the balcony and just being there one with nature and just looking at the mountains and saying, oh my Jesus, like I am so blessed. I am so grateful for this, for where I'm at, and it's taking a lot to get here, but I had a vision, I had a dream, and I put it into play. And, well, you've seen my growth and I've seen your growth since we met, and it's just so freaking amazing, and we've become like soul sisters, through the process, and we've helped each other, with things. You're my mentor and I love you for it. You teaching me so many awesome things, and how to really tap into things. And we're not alone. Look for someone, look for something that to help you. If it's, I don't know, YouTube video on whatever it is that's good for you, or go swim in the lake. I don't know. Just figure it out. There's so much resources nowadays. It's not like before. We have a lot of resources.
We do. And it doesn't have to cost anything, right?
No, they doesn't.
Going out and taking a nice deep breath, go hug a tree.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah. Trees are very
uh,
powerful. I love trees. Like it's so funny because I will walk by trees all the time and never understood how powerful they are and how much memory they hold.
oh yeah.
And they're just freaking amazing. I love it. Even with the bees, I used to like see bees and I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna bite me. And now that I've come into my queen self, into my goddess queen self, they come around and they just like, hover around, and they'll come and look at me and then they'll leave. They're not trying to bite me. They're not trying to, sing me or whatever, they're just like, hey, I know who you are. You're one of us, you're a queen like us, or whatnot, and it's just
Yeah.
cool. Nature.
Talking about bees. I spent some time in Colorado just being
Mhm.
out trying to find myself. So I'm eating lunch and they come and I have this braid uh thing that goes on my hair and it's jewels. And they came in the car
Mhm.
and they went on to my jewelry and cleaned my jewelry for me.
Oh yeah, you told me that. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, and I've had them actually come and eat out of my bowl.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Some people will
yeah.
be like,
So
ew. Some people
I
will be like,
know, I
ew.
know. I was like, I would make sure I had a little spot for them that they could have that was theirs, and they would just come and sit with me, and you know,
And that's such
yeah,
a beautiful connection, isn't it? That, we could connect with other little beings that are just
yeah.
beautiful.
They was teaching me so much, you know.
Mhm.
I've even had them like fly up my dress and clean my kundalini. So, and I was like, I was like,
Oh my
okay,
God.
y'all, we're cool. And they're like, no, we're not done cleaning up this whole issue here. We got to clean this vibration up. So I was like, okay, and I'm like, raise up my skirt and like, okay, y'all can leave
That is
now. Thank
hilarious. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, like seriously, they was very, very attentive to
Hmm.
teach me who I really was.
Nice.
And I was just talking to Rich uh today about this is about letting the animals teach you.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they all have something to say, even
They
that
do.
little annoying fly.
Yeah, that's funny. It's hilarious because they're like here, like, hey, we like what you're talking about. We want to be in the video. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, you can be
Yeah.
in the video, but go sit somewhere. Don't get in front of the camera.
And they're actually sitting over here. And I didn't have any in the office before we started this whole,
That's
you know,
funny. I
yeah.
guess they like the episode of the inner voice.
They're like, oh, let's listen to what they got to say.
That's
But
funny.
it, before when I was teaching a lady in Colorado,
Hmm.
oh, about the flies and how they want to talk to her. So she started out with one fly.
Hmm.
And then it started, another one came because she's like, trying to knock them out and
Right,
spray, all kinds of stuff and
right.
like trying to remove them. And I'm like, they're gonna keep coming back. And she's like, no, then she has her husband go buy a fly swatter and then a couple hours later, she's down there just whacking the shit out of these flies, right? Well, she started with one. She
No.
didn't listen to what it had to say.
Mm.
So
Mm.
two, right? When I came back through, when I went back down there was 75.
What?
Yeah, they just all found their way to her. And she was like, what the hell? Trying
And they have something to say to you. And it's crazy because we don't think about those things. Like for me, like in my other house, before we moved over here to the cabin, last year I was going through some net problems, and I'm like, these freaking nets, what are they doing? Like, why are they in my kitchen and all over the house? I've never had them. And I remember you telling me they're trying to tell you something. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, yeah, because the gnat actually eats on the bad fruit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what the gnat's trying to tell you, it's the best fruit you could ever have. Like, you're missing the best parts
Mm-hmm.
of it. And they was trying to tell you that you're missing the best parts of yourself.
Mm.
And once you started like looking into yourself, what happened?
They disappeared. Actually, when I started writing the book, and then I said I'm gonna finish the book before the year ends. They by that time they were gone.
Exactly, because they was like, find the
Fascinating.
sweetness
Mm.
of yourself. And that's the whole thing, I teaching people what the animals have to say. And the bugs are here for a reason, and they just don't help the earth, but they have their own little missions,
They have their
you know.
purposes for us, for what they could help us with. Now
Yeah, because
we look at the bugs, but then I go into roaches. Like, what the heck?
well, because they're like, they'll take, like, the world could blast away and they'll still be here,
So what is
right?
their, I guess, their mission, their purpose? And I'm just curious because I know growing up in Miami, and I used to have, like, I could feel them. I could see them looking at me, like, like if they were somewhere in the house, I knew exactly where they were. I could hear them, I could feel them. And every time I would like find them and I would look up, they would like fly, and try to get on top
That's
of
right.
me. Yeah, and
Because
I'm like, what the heck?
they was trying to teach you strength and
Mm.
courage. And like mice, okay, I've had mice come in into a past life reading. We was doing a past life, huge group past life reading, and the mouse ran in the door because the Yeti had showed up, and everybody's in there with their coats on. It's 85 degrees outside and it's freezing cold in my house. And and the air conditioner was not on. I didn't even have one. And they're like all wrapped up, and I said, well, this is all a lesson because the Yeti's here to teach us.
Mm.
And this mouse runs in the door, comes in front of me, and sits down and starts talking to me. And everybody in the group says, kill it. And the mouse actually was going, see, look, everybody over here wants to kill me, but I'm here to tell you a message. And I'm like, shh, be quiet, guys. It's trying to give me a message. And they're like, now Katana's really lost it.
Yeah, when people hear these type of things, they're like, okay.
Yeah, she's really nuts now, right? But what it was trying to tell me is to keep the courage up, because
Mm.
look how much courage it had to come in and give the message to me of courage
Mm.
when everybody was trying to kill it.
How funny. It's just incredible how everything just, if we stop and pay attention and listen, not only to our inner voice, but even those little creatures, the nature, the plants, the trees, they're telling us something. They always are.
Yeah, because the inner voice comes from everywhere,
Hmm.
but as we need to determine what's good for us and what's bad for us.
Hmm.
And, a lot of times when it's the bad, that's the lower energies trying to get a vessel to live in because they need it.
They need it, yeah, and we allow it. It's like one of the things that I've learned, like from Shaman Durek. He talks about, he kind of makes it very simple. How he kind of like talks about, let's say spirits from the underworld, and spirits that are not from the underworld, and he just simplifies it to where, if we have a negative thought, it's a spirit, and it's a spirit that used to live in this world before and that never made it to the light because it couldn't forgive itself. So now its job is to be in the underworld. And whenever we have a limited belief thought, like, I'm not good enough, that spirit's going to come and it's going to assist you and it's going to make it real. And it's going to add more stuff to that I'm not good enough, to keep reinforcing that you're not good enough, because that's its job. It has to do that.
Exactly.
So basically, once you understand that it's not how, Hollywood has made it out to be, like, all these demons and all these things. It's not like that. It is if your perspective and the way you see them and the way that you believe that they are, that's how they're going to appear to you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you created that.
but if your perspective is different and you know that, oh, wait a second, yeah, there has to be duality. There has to be, underworld spirits, and there has to be higher level spirits to be able to assist us in both areas, either when we're having good, beautiful thoughts or when we're having not so beautiful thoughts. You know what I mean? So
That's true.
when you understand that they're just spirits, they used to be humans like us, they passed, they could never forgive themselves for whatever the heck they went through or did. You know what I mean? But they're here to assist. So now I'm understanding that when I see one of those, I say, what do you need? Do you need me to love you? Do you need to go to the light? Do you need me to ascend you to the light? And let me tell you something. I know to some people, it might sound like, oh, that's all bullshit, but I've done it and it works.
It does.
And it changes the energy in the room, and it changes that thought, and it feels so good because you're actually helping spirits from the underworld get to the light.
And it changes your energy too. I
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
I do it a lot.
Yeah, I know you do. You've assisted me with some other stuff, and I've assisted you with some crazy stuff too, as I'm learning. And we've done
Yeah.
stuff with my uncle, with my grandmother, even the biggest one was my uncle, having to, ever since he passed, his depression, his suicidal thoughts, everything became part of my life because he wanted to talk to me and tell me that he was sorry for everything. And because I wasn't conscious, aware, and I wasn't listening, he attached himself so much to me that I became that depression. I became that anxiety. I became all that. I lived through all that for almost 20 years after he passed, and really, really intense. And until it didn't come forth, and we said, oh shit, he needs to go to the light, and I forgive him and all this stuff, and I love him and da da da. What happened now? He was able to come in a different light. He was able to
Yes.
come and give me a beautiful message and be my guide. He's one of my guides. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, oh shit, we could actually help, not only in this world, in this realm, but in the other one and in all the other ones, because there's so many different dimensions and planets and galaxies and stuff that we don't know, but
Mhm.
it's been proven. It's already been proven through all kinds of different, scientific research and quantum, research and all that. So it's kind of fascinating that once you realize this shit, it makes life easier.
Well, and it gets easier,
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, since January, there's probably been 30,000 souls in different timelines and connections
Mm-hmm.
that I have released. One was a huge, he had 50 or 80,000 souls attached to him
Wow.
from another lifetime. So that was a huge, it took me a couple hours after the call to release because I made the mistake of going, I'll help you if you need it.
Because we're always so ready to help, right?
Help, but what happened? Those souls were like, "Oh God," she said she'll help us, right?
And they all went like the flies.
Came over here and the session was done and everybody's like, "Bye, Katana," and they're like, "We'll work on that in the next session." I was like, I can't leave these souls from this point in time, this ancient, like we went centuries, like 80,000 centuries back.
Wow.
I'm like, I can't leave them sitting here with me for the next session.
Wow.
I can't live my life that way, right?
Well, it's not good because, they come with different types of, energy, different types
Yeah.
of signatures. that they created in other past lives, and then it just keeps going and going and going. You know, it's like stacks up. In every lifetime, you stack up more stuff if you don't clear stuff, if you don't heal, then you keep
Exactly.
stacking and stacking and stacking. And by the time you get to this timeline, you're all fucked up.
Exactly. Exactly. So the thing is to understand that sometimes that's where sometimes you have to look back to move forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the work that I do, I look back with the people and we clear that space
Mm-hmm.
so they can move forward. And the beautiful thing is when somebody's complexion lightens up and you can see that light coming
Mm-hmm.
into their bodies and their happiness comes around. And then if you just close your eyes, you can see their light just
You can see the
shining.
aura, yeah.
Oh my God, that is such like heartfelt stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that is my passion. It makes me happy to do that. And that's the other thing is, right? To find what makes you happy.
Yes. Yes, that is so critical. So critical, because if you are doing things that make you happy, then you everything that you do it with love, right?
Yeah.
Versus,
Yeah,
oh, I
because
have to do this because I gotta pay bills. Let's say if you're in a job, and it's like that's where I'm at right now, where I don't want to go work for other people because I don't want to be in that rat race. I don't want to be in that negative space. And I'm not saying that every company is negative. I'm not saying there's like, it's there are bad environments everywhere. My husband works for this company, and they have an amazing culture. Everyone is amazing, everybody gets along, everybody helps each other out. I have never experienced anything like that, and he's been working with the company for a little over 7 years now, I think. And he's worked for his boss for over a decade now, and it's just amazing to see that culture. But that's very unique nowadays. You know what I mean? And I don't want to put myself in that in something that's not going to help my growth, especially my spiritual growth. So we still own our vacation rental company. Right now we're doing the full time, with the other property, and we're going to have other properties, and we're going to venture out and do other things. But for right now, I'm in the space of taking care of me, learning what I need to do for myself, loving myself more. I wrote my first book, as I showed earlier in the video. And I'm experimenting. Right now I learned that I'm in the experimental and learning phase. And I love the fact that my husband gives me, he allows that, allows me to venture that way, allows me to like explore. I don't have to go and get a job right away, because we're okay. We're not millionaires yet. We will be. Money's gonna flow abundantly for everyone, but and so it is. But right now, for a little bit, I could still do what I'm doing, figuring stuff out. We're doing the podcast, we're, writing the book, you're writing yourself a book too, and it's about creating. We are creators and keep creating. And this is why we are happier. I'm not saying we don't have our moments, but we're happier.
yes, because when you're creating, you're evolving. Even if you're creating in your mind, and like that journal, even if you're creating that journal, you're creating.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're not creating, you're in stagnant energy.
Yeah.
Stagnant energy gets unhealthy. It's unhealthy energy. It's like when you go to a river and you see the river flowing, but you have that little area that soups up.
Yep, it looks really nasty. Yeah.
Yeah, well, some people that I know have swam in that, like they're swimming in it and they're like, oh, this is great.
That's not
Don't you want to
healthy.
come join me? And I'm like, no,
No, it's okay.
I'll stay out here in the low area because they're stagnant energy.
Mm-hmm.
So stagnation happens in the body. Stagnation is what happens to bring ill health,
Mm-hmm.
ill thoughts, that lower thought system,
Mm-hmm.
and and misery loves company.
Oh yeah. And then you bring in
So
diseases, like cancer, because of your inner voice, because of the thoughts that you feed yourself daily, because of the environment you're in. People say, "Oh, I got cancer because it's genetics." Not
no,
really,
and
not necessarily.
no,
We have the genes, but they only get activated by our stress levels. What we put into our minds and our bodies. You know.
yeah, yes, into our bodies, exactly what we're eating,
Mm-hmm.
like what we're shoving into our mouth.
Yeah.
There was actually a video I watched earlier in my little break before, was that most people think that cancer comes from genetics, but it doesn't. It comes from anger, hate,
Fear.
fear, control.
Mm-hmm.
Because, all right, some people think they have to control everything around them.
Mm-hmm.
That stresses the body. So that puts your cells into stress mode.
Oh yeah.
And in that,
And that
see,
activates that cancer gene in your body.
yeah,
You know what I
that
mean?
sacral chakra right there is just me speaking those words. The sacral chakra is like, oh God,
Oh,
she's teaching again.
oh yeah. I mean, it's funny because I was like maybe a month ago, I had stopped at one of the gas stations over here, and I know that one of the ladies there, and I walk up to her and I'm like, "Hey, how you doing today?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm not so good. Can you pray for me?" And I was like, "Okay, what's going on?" And she's like, I just got diagnosed with breast cancer." And I said, "Oh, okay, so you're experiencing breast cancer." You know what I mean? I changed it up, and she was
Yeah.
like looking at me all like, "What?" And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, still the same. I was still smiling, but it shocked her, because I didn't feed into the negativity. I didn't feed into that, you have breast cancer. No, you are experiencing that. And you could actually heal yourself if you know, have the right knowledge, the right um resources for it. There are so many things that you can do energetically, spiritually. I mean, there's so many things that you can do, and it will take a little bit of time, but you can heal that. You know what I mean? I believe you can heal that.
Oh, you can. You can, because it's flipping the script, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had a chiropractor that ended up with cancer, and he goes, "You know what? I'm gonna love cancer because I know cancer loves hate
Yeah. So
and sadness
so
and
you give it love.
depression."
Yeah.
So he didn't take any,
Chemo or nothing.
radiation. Well, no, because it that stuff really doesn't help you. It's to kill the cells.
But it kills
And
your good ones and your bad ones, right?
exactly. So then, and it's all, a huge money maker thing. And, people get bought into it. And I've, had radiation done on my throat. And I'm like, this ain't changing anything.
No.
And it just kept growing faster and faster. So um I was like, I gotta figure something else out,
And it
right?
has something to do with your throat chakra, huh?
It has something to do with your throat chakra and my feelings
Yeah.
and not running my path that I came here to do in the first place. Because ever since I've been doing this constantly, this last year, constantly of doing this work with different people and different psychics and intuitives, I haven't had any issues with my thyroid.
Oh,
None.
good.
None.
Good.
Yes, I had to start the light therapy patch at first to bring it down and get it,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't come out and expand
Wow.
because inside I wasn't happy. I
Mm.
was not happy inside because I wasn't really doing what I wanted to do, because I was doing stuff to make everybody else happy.
And not taking time for yourself, not nurturing yourself, no self-love for yeah. Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I know.
it
You know,
it changes.
it changes, and you know, I've gone through some health stuff, and I'll tell you something, health is very important. When you don't have health, you don't have quality of life, you don't have anything, you know.
No, and
And I've
makes you
taken
not
my
want to
health
live more.
serious. You know, I still don't eat 100% healthy because I believe there has to be a balance, but I do eat organic stuff. I like to eat organic or farm raised. We just got some farm chicken eggs, you know, and they're awesome. I'm like, oh my God, we got some real chicken eggs. Not that the other ones are fake, but these are coming straight from the hen, straight from that farm.
Well, sometimes I wonder because when I was raised, my grandmother worked at a factory, chicken factory, and I always wanted to just go set those chickens free. And I think I probably, left a few cages open.
Probably.
I remember chasing after them as my grandmother is like, and as we would walk through the factory, she's like, now child, behave yourself.
Hmm.
And it's just crazy, but
It's crazy. I've seen those trucks with the chickens inside, and it's so sad. It makes me so sad because I'm like, oh my God, that's not a healthy chicken. And I know we're going off the subject of inner voice, but I guess, you know, we had to talk about the chicken and the egg. Who came?
well, and the inner voice is knowing, right, that your inner voice screaming out, they're not happy,
They're not.
right?
Yeah.
And they're going somewhere that they know their life is not going to be a happy spot.
No, you know, it's funny because, you know, I love eggs. And for some reason my husband's like, stop eating so much eggs. They're not good for you. And I'm like, who said that? Eggs are super good for you. You know what I mean? Like, you kidding me? I'm from Cuba. You know, I came when I was 2 years old. I don't know what it is to struggle in that sense of not having food and stuff like that. But I know I will hear my grandparents say, you know what? You got eggs, you got rice, you have food, you have a whole meal. You know what I mean? That's all you need. And for me,
Mhm.
that's huge, you know, because sometimes there's days that I don't want to cook. And if I have rice done, pop open an egg, there we go, we have a meal. But you know what? I like healthy stuff. You know, I've learned that if I'm gonna eat meat, I'm gonna eat farm raised meats because my inner voice is telling me you have to eat healthier. You
Ah,
gotta give your body that what it needs, you know, so you could keep living in this world and live a long life, you know? And again, it's our inner voice and we learn to listen. It doesn't matter what it is. You know, it could be eating, you know, healthy chicken or, you know, vegetables or whatnot, but make sure that they are as healthy as they can be because, you know, with everything happening, sometimes when something is organic, we don't even know if it's really organic. You know what I mean?
yeah, it can say it, but it doesn't
We
really
don't
mean it.
know, but at least if we put our intention for it to be healthy and we have a positive outlook to it, then we're taking it in with that love, with that positive, you know, that positivity, you know, that energy. So I'm hoping that somehow it's offsetting whatever's
Well,
in there, you know.
what I do is do a prayer, over the meal,
Okay.
and I ask for everything that is not to my highest good to be taken out of the food and
Mm,
transformed into peace, serenity, nutrition to my highest good, and then put that in back into the food. And then I bless the animals, the plants, everybody that gave forth to that meal, and bring it around, and it changes the vibration. It's like speaking into your water, right? You take a
mm,
glass of water and bad water, you can change the vibration of that
yes,
water.
yes.
Now you want to speak into it. This water is cleansed, it's clean, it's healthy, it's nutritional value for myself. But you don't want to drink it at that second. You want to give it a few minutes to accolate, because water has memory.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And then you drink it from that point. So then, oh my God, it changes. It changes the taste.
Oh yeah.
It really
Oh yeah.
does. And there's a doctor that has done a lot of studies with how to speak to the water,
Hmm.
right? And so when we go into town, I took Chris out one night and we went into town. He's like, "Oh God, it's St. Paul water." And I was like, "Grab your glass, let's have a talk."
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you don't know, right?
Yeah, it's your intentions, right? It
Exactly.
goes back to that intention. And listening to that inner voice is that intention of making your life, because I think sometimes we get lazy
Hmm.
of caring for ourselves.
Yeah, we do. Because, it does become a lot to do, you know, again, perspective. So if you're saying, oh, this is a lot, I have to do so much inner work, I got to do so much healing on a daily basis, because it's not like, oh, I'm going to do this for like a day or a week or a month and then I'm all good, I'm healed. No, bullshit. You got to do this for the rest of your life. This is a lifestyle. This is something that you have to constantly do and you got to work through, because you don't only come with, shit from this lifetime, you come from other lifetimes. So how can you expect to heal anything in a week or in a month? No, you're doing this work for the rest of your life, and it's everyday commitment. It's every day saying, I want to be a better person. I want to be healthier. I want to be stronger. I want to create, I want to live in this world the way that we're intended to live. You know what I mean? Not the way that we were made to live. So
Exactly.
back to the inner voice, it's what is coming in. What information are you putting in your head every day? What information are you intaking? And I've gone from, and I watch Netflix, I watch movies, and I don't watch like scary movies or anything like that anymore, but I will watch a really good like series, and it could be a little dramatic, but there's a lot of information in that series that I can take, and I'll take the positive, what I can learn from it, and the rest I put it to the side. The same thing I do with YouTube videos, like I'll watch all kinds of YouTube videos like Shaman Durek or Dolores Cannon, all these different videos, and I'm putting in information and information in my mind. Okay. And that is what I'm living on a daily basis. So therefore, if I'm putting in good information, I'm going to be happier. I'm going to be living a better life. Correct.
Exactly. Exactly. Because yeah, it comes back to that,
It comes back to
you
that.
know.
Yeah. So we're almost at the end of our podcast here. And I want, I want to give our audience some advice, the ones that are struggling with finding their inner voice. What are maybe, some techniques or some ways or some things that they can do, small little things. It could be two or three little things that they could do on a daily basis. What, in your perspective, what would you say that they can do?
Stop, take a nice deep breath. Because when we're pulling that air in through the nose, that's new life coming in, blowing out that old. Because once we're in that spot, we hold our breath.
Hmm.
And in holding that breath, we're embodying that energy
Right.
and bringing that breath in and releasing, bringing that out and releasing it out. It changes your vibration.
Hmm.
And in changing that vibration, you're changing everything that's happening. And yes, sometimes you might have to do that more than one time.
Right.
But the other is, choosing something different, you know, choosing it, choosing different
Yeah. So
thoughts.
make better choices.
Yeah,
Better choices.
exactly.
Yeah. One of the things that you know, I've done on and off, and I think it's really great. And actually, is one of the things that I'm implementing more and more is finding a little bit of solitude in nature, even if it's a few minutes. Just if you could be out in nature by yourself and just take in that energy, that will help with your inner voice. Changing that dialogue that we tell each other, tell ourselves all the time, like those nasty words. So a little bit of solitude in nature, it's good.
Mm.
Meditation. It doesn't matter what kind of meditation. Even if it's a minute or 5 minutes on a daily basis is good. A good book, I think it's that gives you whatever information on, I don't know, self-help or how to, take care of your feminine energy more as a woman, or how to have a better relationship with your partner or with others, whatever that looks like, just pick two things. You don't have to do too much on a daily basis to start off. Even if it's one thing that you do every day, which is a bubble bath. I love bubble baths. Or just go for a walk, whatever that looks like, just know that if you're struggling, you could flip it like this. It's your choice. It doesn't have to take a long time. You could change what you're feeling, what you're thinking. Your mood could be changed instantly. You just got to want to do the work. It's the
Exactly.
work, because work is like, but just,
It's work for yourself.
uh,
It's self, it's self-value to work for yourself, to bring that into the self and turn off that TV that's blaring that nasty
mhm,
crap to you.
exactly.
Because even if you're not listening to it, your conscious does not know the difference between a story and reality. And the thing is, you can lie to yourself by telling yourself it's an awful day,
Yeah.
or you can lie to yourself by saying, man, it's amazing. Like
Mhm.
a lot of people, when they call me and they're like, Katana, how you doing? I'm like, I'm awesome. I'm awesome. I'm amazing. And I've had people say, I've never met amazing. Thank God I found you.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm having a crappy ass day, but if I'm going to announce that, then I'm putting energy into that part. So sometimes with my significant other, I have a little bit more challenge because he's low vibration a lot of the times because he's still trying to find his self-worth, right?
Right.
So I have that struggle with him of trying to like not be at that lower level with him.
Right.
But sometimes he'll pull me down in that ditch and just beat the living crap out of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And then I get back on my road and I'm like, you're
Yeah.
not going to do that to me again,
And,
right?
and you know what? That's where we have to build our emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Because, when our partners or even family members are struggling and we are in a higher vibration, and this is not to put anybody down at all, but, we have to have the emotional intelligence to be able to hold space for them, and vice versa. Holding space is such a huge thing. Yeah, yeah. And sometimes, like saying I love you, but I'm not gonna take on this energy. There's something that you need to learn from this, and yes, something that I might need to learn from it. But right now, I'm gonna just walk away for a little while. I'm gonna go for a walk, and let them go through what they need to go through. Or you could suggest, hey, you want to go for a walk, and that might change whatever they're in that moment. You know what I
Exactly.
so, but if we could build that emotional intelligence, that strength, then whenever they're not where they need to be, or where they would probably love to be, which is in a higher, you know, higher energy vibration,
Oh yeah, it's like jealousy.
yeah,
Like
but we
it's
could hold
like,
that
why
space for
can't
them.
I feel like you feel?
Yeah. Well, because they sometimes people don't want to do the work. Sometimes they just want things to go and happen right now. Well, they can if you do the work, and it's not one time. It's consistently. Consistency
Mhm.
is key for spiritual growth and healing.
Every day, every moment, every
Mhm.
second, every millisecond
Mhm.
of time.
Yeah. Yep. So, with that said, I enjoyed this amazing podcast that we have created today. And I want to thank you for being here with me and, for all our soulful journey souls that are here. And, I thank you for being in our podcast. And let's wrap up this episode by remembering to keep, nurturing ourselves and connecting with our inner voice, and for it to hold wisdom in our souls. So until next time, dear ones, may you continue to listen deeply, love fiercely, and live authentically. Take care of your precious souls, and we'll meet again soon with love and light. Jacqueline,
And Katana,
love you guys.
love you.